Hi, Year 6. How are you doing? My name's Sheridan, and you might recognize me because I came to work with Year 3 last year on a project. I came from Newcastle University, and originally I was going to be coming back to Fulwell to talk to you about going to university. But unfortunately, with everything going on in the world at the moment, I'm not able to do that. So I thought I'd record this little video for you to talk about my experience of going to university, give you a chance to talk to your teachers and your parents or any siblings about university, and yeah, maybe give you something to think about for the future. So, who am I again? So, my name's Sheridan. I was born in Whitby, so just down the road from Sunderland, also by the sea as well, which I do miss. I'm 28 years old at the moment, and I'm working on my PhD, which I'll talk about a bit later as well. So I originally studied psychology at university, and then I came up to Newcastle to do a master's in linguistics. I've worked with children to see if I can help them with learning to read, and that's what I'm doing in my PhD at the moment, and that's why I came to school before. An important thing as well is no one in my family had ever been to university before, so I was the first one. So some of you, maybe you don't know anybody who's gone to university, and it's kind of scary to think about what it is and not having anybody to talk to. But I'm hoping I can help you with this today and talk to you that anyone can go to university if they want to. It's not exclusive to anybody. So we'll talk about it a bit as we go along. So let's have a look what's next. All right, so what are we going to talk about? So as I said, I'm going to talk about my experience of going to university. I'll explain to you what a university is, because you might not even know what a university is really at the moment. It's just this big word that adults do. What do you do at university? And then, as I said before, talk about can you go to university? The answer is yes, but we'll talk about it a bit more later. Okay, so I've just thought to start, I'd ask you some questions. Obviously, I can't talk to you right now, but you might want to pause the video and talk to a friend, talk to a parent or a guardian or a teacher, somebody, and talk about what do you know about university? What do you think university is? And yeah, what do you know? I'll let you pause it for a moment and then I'll go into the next slide. Okay. Another question I have to you, do you know someone who has gone to university? Because this is a very useful thing. I didn't know anybody, so it wasn't too helpful for me. But if you know somebody, maybe one of your teachers at school has gone, that you can talk to, anybody in your family. It's always very useful to have somebody to talk to about university to help you. So yeah, have a think about that. All right. So, as I said, first I'll tell you about my experience about going to university. So, when I first started thinking about university, it was probably before this as well, but here's me at 17 when I was doing my A levels and trying to think about what I wanted to do. And during this year, I got really enjoyed studying psychology. So I decided that I wanted to do more with psychology and decided I'd go to university and went through the procedure of that, which I think has changed a bit now, but so I won't talk too much about that. So I completed my A levels, got the grades I needed, and then I moved to Birmingham to go to Aston University. And I studied for 4 years as an undergraduate there. And I really enjoyed my time there. I got to study and meet new people, and I moved from a small town to a big city, which was really exciting. Uh, Once I finished my undergraduate degree, I took a couple of years out to do some work, but then I decided, oh, I want to go back to university and finish off my education. Well, first, let's see. There I am after I graduated. That was 6 years ago now, when I was 22. I got to wear the fun cap and everything. So, yeah, as I said, I took a couple of years out to work, but then I really felt the pull to go back to university. And that's when I came to Newcastle and studied at Newcastle University, and I completed a master's degree in linguistics. And at the moment, I'm completing my PhD at Newcastle University. So, I guess an important question is what is university? So, hard to explain, but in simply, a place where students who are 18 years and older can go to learn more about a subject, and you might even become an expert in that subject. So, for my example, I studied psychology. I knew a little bit about it, but I wanted to know more. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to work with the people who know about this stuff. And so you can go to learn about loads of things. Could be maths or English, could be for art or filmmaking or speaking another language. It's not just what you think about doing a lot of writing, it's creative things as well. You don't just have to do the normal maths or English routes. It could be something you're very, very passionate about. And the university itself is a collection of buildings where teaching and research is happening. In particular, one that's nearby to us is Newcastle. It's called a campus university because all the buildings are in one place. But there's other universities like the Open University where you can work from home as well. So university is a very different thing depending on the context and things. But generally, it's a place where you go to learn about something in more detail and more depth from experts. So there's also different stages of university, which I've already mentioned before. So firstly, it was the undergraduate degree, and this is the first degree that you can take because you start off as an undergraduate and then you go to a graduate, if that makes sense to you. And these normally take about 3 years to complete. I mentioned before mine took 4 years. That's because I took a year out to work as a researcher as part of my degree. So there's some variation there, but most people do an undergraduate degree for 3 years. And at the end, you'll earn your bachelor's degree. Way! That's what most people go to university for and then go into the workplace and what they want to do. If you stay at uni, you might go on to do a master's degree. So this is the degree you can complete once you become a graduate, so when you finish your undergraduate degree. So this becomes more difficult than the undergraduate degree. It involves you to learn more knowledge, higher ability to complete it, and you're expected to work a lot more by yourself. And it's also completed over a really short period of time, usually 1 year. And when I did mine, it was very hard, but I learned a lot from it, and I was able to go really in depth and choose the knowledge I wanted to gain. So it's really exciting, but it's not for everybody. You might not want to go that in depth into knowledge, which is fine. But just so you're aware that if you really enjoy your undergraduate degree, you can go even further. And that brings me to the PhD, wherein you become a Doctor of Philosophy. So this is the highest level of achievement you can complete in a university degree. You complete the project over a number of years. So in the UK, this is between 3 to 4 years, depending on lots of different things, which I won't go into. But yeah, and you work with a team of supervisors who you choose and are experts in your subject to complete a thing called a thesis. So the thesis is a big piece of writing that you do about your project. So for example, mine that I'm doing about reading with children is going to be about 70,000 words. Whew. Can you imagine that many words? It's a lot of writing to do, and it's taken a while to do, but I'm enjoying it. I really enjoy my subject. So you do a PhD because you really love something and you want to answer a really specific question about what you've been learning about. But again, even less people do this than a master's. So if you get to this point and you feel you really have a passion to explore something further, it's definitely worth doing. Okay, so another good question is, what do you actually do at university? Well, it obviously depends on what you choose to study. I've talked about that you could do something like maths or English, might be a bit clearer. Like with maths, you might learn about different equations and formulas into more detail. But maybe something like art, that might be a bit different. Maybe you're in the studio a lot more and you do slightly different things to those who do maths and English. So it can depend a lot. But I'm going to base this on my experience doing psychology and linguistics. So you usually go to lectures, and they're sort of like lessons you have in school at Fulwell at the moment, but with many other students. Like mine in Birmingham, I had up to 150 other students in there. It's a load of people. And mostly you're listening to the lecturer and making notes as the lecturer speaks. It's a bit of a one-way thing. It's sort of like maybe how you're taught at school, but with less interaction between you and the teacher. You may also go to things called seminars, and they're a lot like the group work you do in the classroom, where you split into groups of maybe 6 of you to your table, and you talk about a topic or work on a problem together, and you might feed back with the lecturer who's there at the time and sort of learn stuff together. It's a lot more small groups. It's probably a lot more what you're used to at school at the moment. But most of the time, you're working on projects by yourself or with a little team of other students. You're taking control of what you learn and teach yourself. So university is a lot about independence, working by yourself, working with others, self-guided teaching. So for me, I did a lot of reading, a lot of writing, and a lot of talking to others about psychology to gain my own knowledge and find out what I was interested in. Because it's not just about the grade, it's about learning and developing yourself as well. And as I said before, this is not the same for all courses or even other people in my course. It all depends on what you choose to do. A lot of this is self-guided. And it isn't just learning that university is helpful for. One of the big things about going to university is most people, but not everyone, moves away to live in a new place unless you go to a university local to you. Like some of you might just want to go to Sunderland Uni or Teesside Uni or Newcastle Uni, which is fine, that's good. If you've got good friends and family nearby, it's very good to stay. But I moved away to Birmingham when I was 18 because I wanted to try somewhere else. I came from a small town and I wanted to experience life in the city. So by going to uni, I learned how to take care of myself properly. I learned properly how to cook, to clean, to manage my money, and it's a chance to learn and make mistakes in taking care of yourself. You sort of learn a lot more by yourself in quite a safe environment, which is a very lucky thing to have. And you get to meet new people from different places in the UK and internationally. I still have friends from when I went to uni who I keep in touch with and are now teachers all over the world doing different fun jobs and things. It's really exciting for that. And there's also societies at university you can take part to join clubs. So you can do more, you can do sports. I remember I was in a club for rock music. That was pretty fun. I helped out with St. John's Ambulance. There's loads of little things you can do. So it's not just about the subject, there's everything around it. It's a different way of life. It's about learning more about you as well. Okay, so I thought I'd give you an example of what I do at the moment as a PhD student because it's easy me just giving you these things about what it is to be at university, but having some examples is probably really useful as well. Okay, so the first thing I do a lot of is researching. And whether you're an undergraduate, a master's student, or a PhD student, a big part of university is research, and it's a very important part. So this could mean many things. This could mean searching for information about something you're interested in or need to know. So you might be going to find books or journals or other pieces of information to help you figure out something. So for example, in psychology, I might want to learn how a child learns to speak. So I need to know what books should I be looking for, what research articles should I find. It's those skills that are really important. And another part of research that you might think of already is collecting data from people, like you, like the year threes I worked with last year, to answer some questions you have. So for me, does being a good speaker help you become a good reader? That's my question I have. And that's why I work with children to try and figure that out by testing them. And also talking to people about subjects to learn more. So it's not just about going to the books, it's talking about your friends on your course. I talk to my friends every week about different things we're doing in linguistics and talking to my supervisors who are experts in the field. And if you do a creative subject, which I don't do, like art, you'll have to do some sort of research, whether that be looking into a painter's history or different techniques. So research is a big part of university and it's quite important. And then we have writing, which for me is probably the biggest part of what I've ever done. So a big part of my PhD and my undergraduate and master's degrees was writing. I've written lots of essays throughout university about many different subjects, and it's a really important skill to learn, and it's what you will learn at university is how to write well. So I'm writing my thesis at the moment, which is going to be between 60 to 80,000 words, which is doing a lot of this all day. But it might depend on what you study. You may write more or less, but there is usually some writing to do at university, which I wouldn't be scared of right now. Throughout school, you're going to learn how to write better and better, and you get loads of help at university with writing. And then statistics. So it's important to say that not every subject will do this, but it's important to what I'm doing at the moment. So my work has involved numbers, and the research is quantitative research, which is a big word. This basically means I look at numbers a lot in my work, so I need to use statistics. And you may have heard this word statistics before. It's it's essentially just very complicated maths that helps you talk about numbers to explain complicated things. So I'm using numbers I collected from your friends who are now in year 4 about how reading relates to their speech, and using statistics to understand some of that data I got. But not every subject will use these numbers, obviously. And lastly, and probably the thing I do the most during my PhD, is thinking. So it's a strange one to include at first, right? But I spend a lot of my time thinking about the questions I have, whether I'm sitting on the computer like I am now, walking around Gateshead when I go for some exercise, while I'm running, while I'm playing a video game, or when I go to bed. I'm always thinking about these different questions and what I'm learning about. So at university, even at undergraduate, you'll spend a lot of time thinking about what you're studying. And this is often quite exciting because ideas come at strange times. You might be just making some food and suddenly you'll figure something out. And that's probably the main thing university helps you with. It's about thinking about things, not just reading a book and accepting it. You might have an opinion and you can use your research to explore that opinion. And it's very exciting. It's really, really good to be able to think like that. Okay, so what have we got? We have research, we've got writing, we've got statistics, and thinking. And these are all the things I do. And whew, that might sound like a lot to you. This is how I feel most days, trying to balance all these things every day and just trying to complete it all. But that's part of the fun as well, is trying to balance thinking about problems, writing about the problems, researching more, doing the statistics, but then going back to think about it a bit more, going back to write about it a bit more. It's this cycle that's really, really, really fun once you get into it. All right, so now let's get on to talking about whether you can go to university. And the answer is yes. Anyone can go to university if they want to. Whoever you are, you can go to the university if you want to. So my specific example, I didn't know anybody who'd gone to university before. And my parents couldn't afford me to go, and it was scary to become completely independent. I sort of didn't have much of the experience of what it would be to go to university. But I feel I'm better for going because I had a real interest in psychology and language, and I wanted to explore that further. And I'll be finishing my education this year, hopefully. So I think it's important to say, even though if you don't know anybody who's gone to university before, if you don't think you can pay for it, there's usually ways to get help from universities to help you go to university. You might have to look around a bit, but they want to help you. They want to help you learn more. And I wouldn't have gone to university if I hadn't had this support because my parents couldn't afford for me to go. But we made it work. I found a way to make it work. And if you really, really want to do it, you can do it, believe me. So there's a lot of choices as well going to university. I'm just one example of a university graduate, and I have a very specific experience. I have friends who studied art, music, climate science, business management, international relations, creative writing, history, programming, linguistics, German and philosophy. The list just goes on and on. You can study whatever you want to. So if you think university might be for you, go for it. But make sure you're studying something you want to study. Make sure you not figure out, but think about something that you really, really, really enjoy. It could be anything. Like there's a lot of courses at Teesside now for video game development, which I would have loved to have done earlier if I got the skills for it, because that's something I'm passionate about as well. So don't just think of the obvious things. Think about what you really, really love and that you could focus on learning about. Okay, so to not take up too much more of your time, do you think university is for you? Important to say, some of you might not feel university is for you, and that's fine too. It's not for everybody, and you may be thinking of a life which doesn't require university. You might just want to get into work, and that's fine. But it's important to say, if you've been thinking about university but been unsure if you could go, if it's right for you, then you can go if you want. For you, you probably don't need to start worrying about it yet though. You have plenty of time still to think about what you enjoy doing, whether you want to stay around Sunderland or Newcastle or this area, or if you want to move further. But you can go to university if you really want to. So what should you do? As I said, you should think about the subjects you really enjoy. You'll be learning about it for 3 to 4 years, or maybe longer if you really enjoy it, and it's helpful if it's something that you really, really, really love. And talk to people who've been to university. If you know anybody who's been to university, ask them questions about it. And there are probably a number of teachers in your school that went to university that you could talk to. So maybe ask your class teacher and see if they can get you to talk to some people who've been to university to learn more. Okay, so this is the end of the video now. So thank you very much for listening to me. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If you don't, maybe you don't know anybody who's been to university, as we talked about before, but I'm happy to answer any questions. You can email me, as it says on screen, at s.miller2@newcastle.ac.uk. And yeah, thank you very much for listening, and I hope this has been helpful. Right, thank you.